Ever heard of Timbuktu? For many, it's just a name for a faraway, almost mythical place. But what if I told you this remote city in Mali was once the epicenter of a sprawling intellectual empire, rivaling any in the world? And what if I told you that the proof of this golden age, a treasure trove of 700,000 ancient manuscripts, survived centuries of shifting sands, colonial ambition, and modern conflict, all thanks to the courage of ordinary people? This is the story of Timbuktu's hidden libraries, a testament to a rich African history that has been overlooked for too long. Forget the narrative that Africa had no written history. We're about to uncover a world of knowledge that will change the way you see the past. Picture this. It's the 14th century. Europe is slowly emerging from the Middle Ages, but in the heart of the West African Sahel, the city of Timbuktu is a bustling metropolis. As a key hub on the trans-Saharan trade route, it's not just gold and salt that flow through its streets, but something far more valuable: ideas. Timbuktu was home to the Sankore University, one of the world's first universities, attracting scholars, students, and thinkers from across the Islamic world. This wasn't just a place of learning, it was a city of books. While a private library in Europe at the time might have held a few dozen volumes, scholars in Timbuktu owned thousands. These weren't just religious texts. These manuscripts covered an astonishing range of subjects: astronomy, mathematics, medicine, law, philosophy, botany, and even music theory. There were complex legal rulings on trade disputes, detailed star charts that mapped the cosmos, and medical encyclopedias describing surgical procedures and the properties of medicinal plants. One manuscript details how to perform cataract surgery. Another contains sophisticated algebraic equations. Others are beautifully illuminated works of poetry and calligraphy. This was a society deeply engaged with the written word, producing a breathtaking volume of intellectual work. These 700,000 manuscripts collectively show us a civilization that was not isolated or dark, but was instead a vibrant global center of innovation and scholarship. So, if this incredible wealth of knowledge existed, why is it not common knowledge today? The story of its survival is as dramatic as the knowledge it contains. As the great Malian Empire declined and colonial powers began to carve up Africa, Timbuktu's golden age faded. The precious manuscripts, once a source of pride, became a secret to be protected. Fearing that these books would be stolen or destroyed by outsiders who didn't understand their value, families took on the sacred duty of guardianship. They became the library guardians. For generations, these families hid the manuscripts away, burying them in chests under the desert sand, sealing them behind false walls in their homes, or storing them in remote desert caves. They understood that these weren't just old books. They were the soul of their ancestors, the evidence of their glorious past. This tradition of secret preservation continued for centuries. The manuscripts, written on delicate paper and bound in leather, faced constant threats from the harsh desert climate, termites, humidity, and the ever-present sand. The guardians meticulously cared for them, passing down the knowledge of their preservation from father to son, mother to daughter. It was an act of cultural defiance, a quiet, centuries-long rebellion to protect their heritage. Then in 2012, a new and terrifying threat emerged. Extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda seized control of northern Mali, including Timbuktu. Their ideology was one of destruction, targeting anything they deemed un-Islamic, which included Sufi shrines and, most horrifyingly, these priceless manuscripts. They saw these books, with their wide-ranging scientific and philosophical content, as a threat. They ransacked and burned the Ahmed Baba Institute, a major public library, destroying thousands of manuscripts in a public display of cultural erasure. The world watched in horror, believing that Timbuktu's legacy was turning to ash. But the extremists had underestimated the people of Timbuktu. They had only destroyed a fraction of the city's collection. The vast majority, over 95%, was still hidden away in those private family libraries. What happened next was an operation worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster. A quiet librarian and archivist named Abdel Kader Haidara orchestrated a daring rescue mission. He was the modern-day leader of the library guardians. Realizing the immense danger, he coordinated with a network of families, smugglers, and ordinary citizens to smuggle the manuscripts out of the city. Under the cover of darkness, the manuscripts were packed into metal and wooden footlockers. These chests were then loaded onto donkey carts, river pirogues, and rickety pickup trucks, navigating extremist checkpoints and dangerous bandit-patrolled roads. It was a race against time. Each journey was fraught with peril. A single discovery would have meant certain death for the smugglers and the destruction of the irreplaceable cargo they carried. Over several months, this grassroots network of heroes managed to smuggle an estimated 350,000 manuscripts nearly 1,000 kilometers south to the safety of Mali's capital, Bamako. It was one of the greatest cultural rescue missions in modern history, accomplished not by governments or armies, but by librarians and everyday people willing to risk everything for their heritage. But the story doesn't end there. Getting the manuscripts to safety was only the first step. Now, a new battle is being fought. The battle against time and decay. The humid climate of Bamako is far more damaging to the delicate pages than the dry desert air of Timbuktu. The ink is fading, the paper is crumbling, and mold is a constant threat. This is where the journey from dust to digital begins. International organizations, in partnership with local Malian experts, have launched a massive preservation and digitization project. Teams of conservators are painstakingly cleaning, repairing, and stabilizing each manuscript. Every page is then carefully scanned, creating a high-resolution digital copy. This process is not just about saving the information, it's about making it accessible to the world. For the first time, scholars from across the globe can study these texts without having to travel to Mali or handle the fragile originals. This digital library is unlocking secrets that have been hidden for centuries, revealing a more nuanced and complex picture of African and world history. The digitization is also an act of empowerment. Malian scholars are leading the way, translating and interpreting the texts, ensuring that the stories are told from their own perspective. They are reclaiming their history and sharing it with a new generation. So why are these 700,000 manuscripts so important? They fundamentally challenge the colonial-era myth of Africa as a continent without history or intellectual traditions. They prove that while Europe was in its so-called Dark Ages, cities like Timbuktu were centers of light, learning, and scientific inquiry. They show us a world where African scholars were grappling with the same universal questions of science, ethics, and art as their counterparts elsewhere. These books are more than just artifacts. They are a bridge to a forgotten past and a beacon for the future. They remind us that history is often written by the victors and that countless stories remain buried, waiting to be rediscovered. The survival of the Timbuktu manuscripts is a powerful symbol of resilience, a story of how a community's love for knowledge can triumph over ignorance, war, and time itself. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to the heart of Timbuktu's incredible legacy. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that uncover the hidden corners of our shared human history. Let's keep these important conversations going in the comments below. See you next time.